Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining the Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team. Mitch, Bill, and Sean, I love you guys. And to our special advisory committee, Bill Morris, UCI School of Business, Jose and Camila Rubio, thank you so much. All right, today I have the distinct privilege and honor to introduce Dr. Ed Eng. He is the best-selling author of The Accidental Mayor, From the Side Streets of Chinatown to the Main Street of City Hall. He is currently a council member and former mayor of La Mirada and seasoned executive with 25 plus years of diverse industry experience in government, media, consulting, and engineering. Previously, Dr. Eng was the regional president of Los Angeles Times. During that time, he received the Innovator of the Year award for his ethnic partnership strategy that catapulted the Times to become the largest metropolitan daily newspaper in the country. He has also served as an advisory board member for a Fortune 100 company and several startups. Dr. Eng holds a doctorate in organizational leadership, an MBA, and an MS and a BS in engineering. In conjunction with his academic work, Dr. Eng teaches strategy and management as an adjunct professor at several universities. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Eng.
Thank you for having me back. So glad to be here. And I am very humbled by that introduction. So thank you again.
Well, it's all you, Dr. Eng. This is, a brief bio, a brief history of Dr. Eng's life. And, I'm so excited today because the last time we spoke was during the summer when you were working on, your efforts to publish your book. Fast forward today, we're almost towards the end of the year. And now I am interviewing a best-selling author of The Accidental Mayor, right? From the side streets of Chinatown to the main street of City Hall. I'm just so excited to be sitting in the front seat of such a fun and incredible project.
Thank you so much. I think the last time we spoke, I was trying to edit my book for the 100th time. And it was getting pretty frustrating. So finally, I had to pump the brakes and say, there's no such thing as perfection. And I think when I released the book last month, I think it resonated with a lot of people. It's a book about hope and dreams and to never give up. I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but actually the book focuses on universal themes of relationships, resilience, and never giving up, and really looking at life in a philosophical way that we try not to look for answers in curveballs that are thrown at us, but rather to look for lessons learned.
Absolutely, which is why I love that you were available to come and join our audience today and share this message as we're moving into the new year, right? Talking about transformative efforts, right? Talking about a new perspective and taking your story and your experiences, ruminating over those, thinking about our own, and coming into 2023 with a new frame of mind and opportunity to really see what is open to us and break away from those things that, are challenging us every day, especially when you're looking at these past 2 and 3 years.
Yeah, so I think as I was writing my book, I realized that all the stories I wrote about are the defining moments that shape who I am today. It actually formed my identity. So you have two choices. You can let your weakness shape your identity, and you will be forever have that weakness as your identity. But instead, I think we should let our weakness and our shortcomings be our motivation to do something greater. And that's what I've done with the book in reflecting on all the stories that define who I was, who I am today. There were 3 universal themes for me. It is about exploring my life in the 70s of an Asian American immigrant growing up in Chinatown with very limited resources. I come from a family of nine. They were come from a family of seven siblings and my parents, and we didn't have a whole lot of money. But that poverty, growing up in that poverty, in that very very volatile condition, actually gave me the ambition to really try different things and to take advantage of opportunities that came my way. I think the last time we spoke, I talked about growing up in the 70s in Chinatown, which is really at the height of the gang war. There were just so many gangs, and I was inflicted a lot of physical pain, which ultimately led to a lot of emotional pain as well. And that pain actually gave me the resilience to really never give up when I run into problems or issues or headwinds. And even though at the time those issues might be insurmountable, but looking back now, those insurmountable challenges actually gave me the resilience to overcome any challenge that come my way, whether it's unexpected or expected. And then finally, growing up in Chinatown, where my parents both worked menial jobs, and we're just trying to assimilate to the American culture, I didn't feel like we have a voice, and we were part of I would say, the silent, the forgotten immigrants. And actually, that gave me the purpose to really give a voice to anyone who doesn't feel like they have it. So that lack of voice actually gave me a purpose to actually give everyone else a voice. And when I became a mayor of a city, I wanted to make sure that government is become so small that anyone can have access to me. And that's kind of my philosophy in government, to make the bureaucracy as small as possible and to really reach out to the people and connect them so that everyone would feel like they have a voice.
Right. And you hit on a very interesting point because you talk about the public policy of it, right? The bureaucracy and serving now as a mayor and as a council member, and having the ability to make those local community impacts to assist, families such as yourself on a local level and identifying those opportunities to do the work, right? So please talk a little bit about the serendipitous nature of how you fell into becoming a mayor.
Yeah, great question. So in my book, there's a chapter called Serendipity. And honestly, I have absolutely no desire to be a politician or an elected official at any point in my life. I just didn't like the bureaucratic nature of it. I used to work in the bureaucracy, and I just didn't like the archaic rules that govern bureaucracy. So it was one day when I was just driving in the rain like we have today, but it was raining 10 times harder maybe, and my car was breaking down, and I drove into a building that was kind of a building I'd never been before. It was the first driveway that came to my car when the engine light was lit up. And right after I drove in, I saw the majestic building, and it looked kind of intimidating. But I saw a lot of people walking in to this building, and it turned out that building was City Hall of La Mirada. Believe it or not, at that time, I think I've been in La Mirada, living there for about 15 or 18 years, and I've never been to City Hall before. Just never
Wow.
been there. And that was the first time. And it turned out they were looking for new commissioners, or at least prospective commissioners to serve on the three commissions. And I just happened to be there. And since I was waiting for AAA to come, tow my car away, even tow my car home or to a body shop, I had time to find out what was going on. And when they were giving out free donuts and coffee, I just couldn't resist. So I drove in and actually talked about my perspective of La Mirada. And at the end of that speech and at the end of the evening, one of the council members actually came up to me and asked me if I was interested in any of the three commissions. And I told him I needed to get back to him. But after talking over with my wife and my son, they both thought it was only a monthly event. So I decided to do that. So it was from a car that was breaking down, becoming a commissioner. And during the commission, I realized that there is a unspoken system in place that you need to get a lot of buy-off from the current council member and leadership of La Mirada in order to have a chance to win. For some reason, that just struck my nerve, and I just felt like wait, my whole family went through a voiceless, silent period growing up in the streets of Chinatown. And now I have to wait my turn again if I were to run. I just felt like once again someone was choking out my voice and I wanted to be heard. So I ran and fortunately won.
So tell us about that first campaign, and what you learned from it in relation to that serendipitous, um, event that led you to that, right? It seems like a full circle moment and serendipitous. And I know the title of your book is The Accidental Mayor. I personally don't believe in accidents. It's all, a plan for some purpose. But that's what I find so interesting about this. So please talk a little bit about that first campaign, what you experienced, and what it felt like to achieve that goal to have that voice.
Yeah. So when I decided to run, I only have 4 months left before the election. And later on, I found out, of course, in reflection, I found out that people start campaigning and preparing for a run at elected office years in advance, and they get endorsements and all of that. I didn't have the luxury of really preparing an event, and I also didn't have the luxury of knowing how to run a campaign. Never done it before, but after I got the okay, the approval from my family to do it, I just started Googling how to run a campaign. And there were a lot of obstacles along the way, being that it was only 4 months from the from election.
Oh,
Most of
wow.
the elections, not elections, most of the endorsements were already given away at that time. So everyone I called really told me one or two things. Number one, no, I don't know you. I'm not gonna endorse you or vote for you. Or two, I am not. I already gave my endorsement away to someone else. You're a little bit too late to the game. But the third thing that was most disheartening is people actually telling you already written you off, like as if you have absolutely no chance at all, without even knowing who you are, without giving you a minute of their time to really let you talk about yourself, why you believe you can make a difference. None of that was, all of those things did not go my way, and they were to me headwinds just along a long journey. But there were people even telling me that I was just too critical of the current city council leadership. But pretty much I told them that I was not running to extend anyone's legacy, but to start my own. And in retrospect, those rejections were good for me because I don't owe anybody anything. I don't have to return any favors to anyone because no one endorsed me. No one thought I had a chance to win. So we
Yes.
kind of go full circles. Whereas I grew up in Chinatown without a handout, without anyone giving us a hand, we have to scratch and claw our way out of Chinatown. In this case, it was exactly the same thing. So to your point, Yvette, about the full circle, I do, I did feel, I did feel like I went full circles in this instant because in Chinatown we were faced with the same odds, which is incredible odds. And in this case, I actually at one point written myself off, didn't think I had a chance to win, but I was not going to let anyone talk down to me, let anyone talk over me, and I want you to talk to me, not at me. And I
Right.
stuck to my ground, stuck to my values, stuck to my identity, stuck with who I believe I am, and finished the race and won the race.
I love it. That is so inspiring. And please share a little bit about how that must have felt for your family, for your siblings, and for your parents if they're still with us today.
Yeah, that's a great question because I do believe that life is really about resilience. It's really about family. It's really about love and relationships. I think there were two groups of people that believed in me from the onset, and that was my family. I don't think they ever told me they supported me or that I will win or they hope I will win. No, they just told me go for it, and they just kind of supported me. I think my sister and my brother contributed to my campaign, and of course my wife and my kid they walked for me. But there was a group of friends from basketball. We call them the mamacitas because because all our kids play on the same team. But honestly, they were the people that really show up when, and also my neighbor and a couple of one of my neighbors here. and another neighbor down the street. They all show up. They were the first people that really show up and believed that I had a chance to win. It was just funny because when during my kickoff, my campaign kickoff, it was pouring rain a day where I didn't think anyone would show up because who's going to show up to a kickoff campaign of an unknown candidate? But at 11
And in
o'clock,
the rain, right?
in
And
the
in the
rain,
rain.
thunder, it was just a pouring rain. It was just raining so hard that day. And I just kind of looked at the sky and said, it's just not my time yet. But at 11 o'clock sharp, when the campaign kickoff was supposed to start, one by one, they all show up. And by, I think, 11:15, my house was full of people. And it was from these friends, from my two neighbors. Uh, they all just came and knew their support. And when I dispatched them to go knock on doors, they didn't really know what to say. I just remember one of my good friends, her name is Glow, she basically, and Vicky Munoz, they were walking together. And when they knocked on the door, and I think the question asked to them was, why should I vote for this guy? And they didn't know what my campaign was about. They didn't know how I represented myself. All they said was, I believed in this person 1,000%. I just believed that he would be great for our city. And my parents, all they did was they never told me anything. They just gave me emotional support the entire time. But I really got to thank my wife uh, because I think I told her she didn't need to be involved because I can do it all. But I think 1 week into the campaign, she became my campaign manager, a brilliant lady who came with us with a social media strategy that I would not have won without her. And today, fortunately, my mom passed away, I think 2 years before I decided to run for city council. So I wish she was there to see it because my success is really attributed to their hard work and sacrifice so I can have opportunities in life. That was one of the biggest disappointments or regrets that I have that she wasn't there to see me. But my dad's 100 years old and he's still alive, even through my
Amazing.
second campaign. So I'm just grateful for all the friendships and relationships and love that people gave me.
I love it. So, with that said, please walk us a little bit through the writing process, right? Because I mean, your book is so detailed. You have over 15 chapters of, almost 20 chapters, right, of your life story. Um, Talk about that process, how long it took you to gather all of those stories and organize them in a way that best reflected, what it is you wanted to share with the world.
Yes. So I've never written a book before. My background is really business writing. I've been a business executive for the longest time, and I have an MBA. So everything I write is geared toward business, which is very simple, direct to the point. And there's a lot of dollar signs in my sentences because that's business writing, trying to convince people to launch a product or to go into certain markets. And then I got my PhD, which is the most boring type of writing you can ever encounter, which is academic writing. And you can't even write with your own voice because everything you write has to be validated by some researchers with a theory
Mm.
before you. So I was not a writer, but I've been keeping a diary uh, for a while now. I don't write in it every day, but when there's something that resonates with my heart, I always write my thoughts in it. Never thought I was going to write a book. So the whole process took me 3 years, and I never done it before. All I did was just go back and reflected on all the defining moments that shaped who I am today. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. I just started writing, putting everything on paper, and I wrote about, I would say in my first draft, I wrote about 30 pages. Then I ran out of ideas. I just didn't know what else to write. So I actually put it away and didn't think I have a book. I didn't have enough story for a book. And then I told my son and my wife about my book. And my son, who's a brilliant writer, actually coached me and said, Dad, you really have a great story here. Just a fabulous story, but you need to be able to expand on it and really tell your story in your own voice because you're so used to writing and making it sound good. But you're a naturally gifted speaker. So why don't you just write like you speak and we'll worry about the sentence structure and all that. But we need to capture your voice. So I said, okay. So I started writing. I wrote another probably 50 pages. Now I have 85 pages. And then my wife is brilliant in writing. She teaches English writing. And then she
Wow.
wrote it and she basically told me she almost fell asleep because it was so boring.
Oh, no.
She said, you know what, Ed? She said, the voice is there, but somehow you're just telling us. You need to kind of show us how you felt at the time, and what your feelings are. You got to put your emotions into it. So I went back, and every day I would just revise a sentence. And then finally, I think the one chapter, I think if you, those of you who read my book, if you read the chapter on the drudgery walk, it's really about my mom, about me playing basketball, who let time escape me. And I was late in picking up my mom, so I wrote about her. I actually took me almost a week to write one page because I was so emotional.
Mhm.
Because I just felt like I she made all this sacrifice for me, and yet I was late in picking her up, and so it took me a week to write that, and I just felt like, wow, I made myself cry when I wrote that because I was so emotional. So I actually went back to every chapter and rewrote it, and I just couldn't stop crying. And when I was done, I think I had about 100 pages, and then I let my wife read it, and then she couldn't even continue. She couldn't get past through the first chapter, and she started crying. I let my son read it, and then she said, "This is good, Dad. This is really good." And then he read most of it, and then he said, "But I can see that you got tired because the second half is pretty bad. It's back to the old days." So again, I went back and rewrote the second half again, going through the same emotional process, and I just one day I just said, you know what, I can't keep rewriting. I just have to pump the brakes and just publish it. But at that time, I let my son reread it, and he read it and said, "This is good. This is great, Dad. I think you did it." So that's so I launched on my birthday on November 18th, and 3 weeks into the publishing, the release of the book, I became a bestseller. And I just think that the emotions, the voice, just the story itself, I think resonated with people. It's really it's really about the hopes and dreams, like I said earlier, and the poverty and the pain and the purpose really gave me the motivation. And it's really about informing people the Asian American immigrant life, that some people might see Asian American minority as very successful, but actually there are a lot of layers, a lot of challenges, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind it. And I just want to tell my story, my family story. And I know that story is not unique. It's our story in a sense because we all go through life's challenges and obstacles. And also, I want to immortalize my parents for all the sacrifice that, all the sacrifice they made, so that someone like me can have a chance in life today, talking to you, being interviewed by people, having a bestseller. So, and finally, that for anyone out there who is going through challenges and obstacles and believe that they need inspiration. So those are the three purposes of my book, to honor my parents, to inform people about my story, and also to inspire everyone out there.
I love it. So we are coming up on a break right now, so it's perfect timing. For those listening, I'm Yvette Walker on Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV, talking with Dr. Ed Eng, best-selling author of The Accidental Mayor, a true underdog story with recollections of growing up in a newly immigrated family home that tell a story of defeat and seemingly insurmountable challenges, today living the ultimate triumph of making a positive impact in his community. When we return. It's summer, the sun is shining, and now's the time to make the most of your solar panels. Don't lose up to 50% of your solar panels' efficiency just because they're dirty. Get the most out of your solar panels and call my friends at Solar Panel Cleaning Specialists at 951-663-7502. That's 951-663-7502. Mention this ad and receive your discount. Offer expires December 31st.
Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily nonstop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Every 2 seconds, someone needs a blood transfusion. Be on the giving side. Livestream Blood Bank supports patients in 80 Southern California hospitals. Call 1-800-TRY-GIVING for more information and to set an appointment.
City of Hope is driven to making a difference in the lives of people with cancer and diabetes. We accomplish this by conducting innovative research and providing outstanding care. If you or a loved one has received a cancer diagnosis, go to cityofhope.org to learn more about how our innovative approach could change your outcome.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Hi, Ray Lance from the Diamond Center in the Claremont Village here. One of the coolest parts of a third-generation family business is getting to know the families we serve through generations. Once you experience our friendly service, our fair and transparent pricing, and our beautiful jewelry that we make to last a lifetime, you'll stick with us too. Come visit us in the Claremont Village or at Lantz, L-A-N-T-Z, diamondcenter.com and see what makes us different.
Welcome back. For those listening, I'm Yvette Walker on Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV, talking with Dr. Ed Eng, best-selling author of The Accidental Mayor, a true underdog story with recollections of growing up in a newly immigrated family home that tell a story of defeat and seemingly insurmountable challenges. Today, living the ultimate triumph of making a positive impact in his community. Thank you again for being with us, Dr. Eng.
Glad to be back.
Wonderful. So before the break, we spoke a little bit about the logistical part of, bringing your stories together, the story of how your story was brought together and the process that you underwent, the 3 years that it took you to formulate those stories in a way that expressed exactly what you felt at the moment in a way that could really make an impact, and having that support from your family and friends and the mamacitas, right?
Yep.
So thank you again so much for being with us today, Dr. Eng.
No, I'm just glad to be here, and thank you for doing a deep dive into my book and also the process of writing.
Absolutely.
And what led up to that, and what led up to the book.
Beautiful. So, before the break, you mentioned in the book, you show the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So we're going to go through some of the chapters, and you can just kind of give us a synopsis of what we can expect to see in each of those chapters.
Yes, sure.
All righty. So let's start with your first chapter, which is the Gold Mountain, Dr. Eng.
Yeah, so the Gold Mountain is a myth. I was born in Hong Kong, and we think of Gold Mountain as really the American dream, but in my naive mind, I thought Gold Mountain was really a physical mountain with gold in it, because people in Hong Kong, we are actually think of America as paradise. I actually thought it was a mountain with gold growing on it that you can just pick it up. And I was the envy of all my friends, and because I was going to America, the Gold Mountain, and everyone thought, wow, it was the dream of every Hong Kongers to come to America and get a piece of the Gold Mountain or the paradise. And I had dreams, so that was the opening, that I was full of dreams and hopes, and not thinking that along the way there are a lot of obstacles and challenges.
So your journey started with tremendous optimism and even, a little envy from your peers to see that, hey, Ed is leaving us and he's going to the Gold Mountain, right?
That's correct. I thought, wow, I thought my journey to America is going to be incredible. I was in envy of all my friends. I was the only one of all my friends who was going to America. And we all grew up pretty poor. We lived in a police dormitory. There were 10 of us, and we lived in a 400 square foot home, and we didn't have our own bathrooms. And my grandma ended up staying behind because she said, I'm too old to go to the Gold Mountain, and all my friends are here. But so I kind of promised her that I will pick up a piece of gold from the Gold Mountain and mail it back to her. That's how naive I was, but I really believed that I would. And and I did give her my piggy bank before I left, which had all my savings in it. That was just in the Chinese culture. That's just a way of showing respect and gratitude towards someone who took care of you. And she did take care of me growing up. I was a weak and sickly boy growing up in Hong Kong. I got picked on. I was always the last person to be picked on any team, any basketball team or soccer team or just any games we play. I was always the last person sitting, waiting to be picked. So I thought when I come to America, breathing the American air, eating the American food, I will grow up to be 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet, and I'll be tall and strong. So you're absolutely right. I was full of optimism
I
coming here.
love it. And then, so the next chapter, you talk about the forever sickly boy, which sounds like, you describe that experience of being picked last and having these, physical challenges and ailments that maybe were not what you wanted for yourself.
Yeah, I thought the American air, American food would make me strong, and it didn't. I was still always sick. I always had I called it forever cold or common cold or the flu. I always had fevers every other week or sometimes every week, depending on the month of the year. But
Mm.
I was always sick. But I think the hardest obstacle to overcome was the language barrier. My dad was a lieutenant in Hong Kong, but because of the language barrier,
Mm.
right away he became to put food on the table. Right away, he became a dishwasher and custodian just to put food on the table. My mom became a self-taught seamstress to help out with the family. My oldest brother and my oldest sister had to work right away to provide for the rest of the family. And it was just hard at the beginning, so I really made it a point to overcome the language barrier. And one of the teachers told me to mimic people's mouth and make the sound that they make so that you can learn English faster. And when I did that, one of the kids took exception to that and thought I was mocking him. And that was my very first beating in America. And I was beaten
Oh,
with a pulp because he told me I was teasing him, and I was not. And the funny thing is, after I got beat up, my t-shirt torn, I was a dirt on my pants and bruises on my face. I walk in the room, no one even looked at me or asked what happened. And that beating took place almost on a weekly basis. And I just remember hoping that I would get stronger and bigger and learning how to fight like Bruce Lee, because I was not be, I was not able to defend myself very effectively. So that was a whole premise of the book. Really, when people ask you, or tell you, I will see you after school, it doesn't mean that I will see you after school to walk home with you or to grab a soda. It means I'm going to beat you up after school. Then when I got older, people would say, not I will see you after school. They would ask you where you're from, and one wrong answer, you would get beat up pretty bad. And these are with bigger boys with really mean gangsters, and so it was a very volatile, uncertain time for me growing up. The first, I would say, 5 to 6 years.
and so your next chapter, it goes into survival. So what did that survival look like for you at that time as you were, you left one country thinking, here I am going to this gold mountain where it has all the answers, right? I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to even send, a piece of gold back to my grandmother when I pick it off the gold mountain. what did that survival look for you in relation to, that letdown, so to speak, of what you expected it to be and what the reality was, in
Yeah.
fact?
At one point, I'd rather go back to no mountain. I wanted to go home so bad because even though I grew up poor in Hong Kong, but at least I had a lot of friends. I wasn't getting beaten up. And people always ask me, "Hey, you have big brothers. Couldn't they defend you?" And little do they know that they were just getting beat up just as bad as I was, except by bigger and stronger boys. And I witnessed most of them getting beat up without provocation. So I just thought that, okay, what is the point in having big brothers when they were getting beat up too? But I did learn one thing is really how to talk myself out of the fight, how to diffuse tension when I could. And but it was a time where I really wanted to go home. We didn't provoke anyone, but I just felt like we came to a country with so much optimism, but yet I just feel like the country didn't love us back. And would rather be home where I felt like I belong. All these unprovoked fights and beatings were pretty much, I think that kind of took all the optimism away and replaced it with that anger and and hurt and pain. So I really wanted to go back home.
I don't blame you. So let's go to your next chapter, which is becoming, right? Because after experiencing all of these feelings of, like you said, wanting to go back home and feeling let down and obviously feeling marginalized and forgotten and not having the experience that you had hoped and dreamed for, there was something that must have happened to get you to the place where you felt like you were becoming, which is one of the names of your chapters. Please talk about that chapter.
So leading up to that, I just wanted to go home, and at some point, I just felt like I wanted to work to save enough money, so when I become an adult, I can just go home on my own because I just hated the country. I think it was Miss Crowell, one of my high school teachers, that told me, even though you skip school so much and your grades are still in the top 10%, and she said, apparently you're very intelligent, and I know you are because I had you in one of my course classes. But I need you to apply to college, and I resisted it. I said we have no money for college application fees, and she actually gave me the money and said you can apply to one college, and
Wow.
and she actually had the two valedictorians write, not write, but proofread my essay for me to the point where they said I think it's a good essay. But the story, even though it was a great essay, but when I got home, I just felt like a fraud because I just didn't feel like I wrote with my heart. The essay is about how much I love America, that
Mm.
this is the country of dreams, but I felt like the complete opposite. So I actually took a whiteout and white it and then erased everything and rewrote the essay, talking about how much I hated America. It was a
Oh my
country
goodness.
that I loved, but yet didn't love me back, and I wanted to go home. Well, that essay must have struck a chord with one of the admission officers because I got into UCLA, and that was the beginning, the turning point for me, I believe, because UCLA universities are just so different. They were big university, full of vibrancy, and people were. It was away from just Chinatown. Before that, my world consisted of Chinatown, but now my world was expanded. There were cultures from so many people from so many different countries, learning about so many different cultures, and making so many new friends. And finally, met a bunch of uh, guys that ultimately became my best friend and roommates. I always tell people when you are blood related, you are relatives, but loyalty really defines who your family is. And these guys were my family because we went through thick and thin, and I know they would have done anything for me, and I would have done anything for them. So that was becoming. My world began to expand, and my world began to. I was beginning to absorb knowledge, and I was really coming into my own. I knew what my values were. My identity was taking shape, and I had skills. I had talent. I realized that I could get a job now. So that was becoming.
Absolutely. And so to take a whiteout pen and, eliminate that whole essay where you're talking glowingly about America and really actually putting your heart into sharing your experience and what you felt America meant to you after all of these devastating experiences. What did you learn from that? That is a very courageous and bold move, especially when you're basically asking to be accepted into, an
Yeah.
educational institution, or maybe even, apply for scholarships or things like that. What was that lesson that you learned in that moment as a result of you being authentic and honest?
Yeah. So I would say there are two lessons in reflection. In reflection, now, I would say the two biggest lesson is number one: always speak from your heart, but think from your head. So you can have the best logic in the world, but if you don't have passion, you don't have heart, it really doesn't come across authentic. And the second one is take some risk. We were taught how to write so that college admission officers will accept us, right? Write the way they want to hear. So
Mm.
that's what we're taught. So we don't really take risk. We're always put in a box. The whole educational system in America is putting you in a box. Here are the things you have to learn. Here's what you do to graduate, the A through Z or whatever it's called, A through G. But we always get put in a box, and so therefore we never end up taking a risk until it's a good risk. But every now and then you just gotta think from your heart and take a risk, and if you fail, it's okay, because rather than look for answers of why you fail, you just kind of look for lessons learned. And I always tell people we get stressed out because we always want to find out the why in things. We want to look for answers. We want to analyze things over and over. Although stress is part of life, but we should be looking for lessons learned, because all those lessons will come back to help you in some way. And that's one of the universal themes in my book, is that all the lessons learned will come back to help you in some way, shape, or form, even though you can't see it now. But in hindsight, when you look back 5, 10 years from now, looking back, you are going to see that all those lessons did help you, and that your journey is not over. You pick the beautiful picture that you're meant to have at the end of your journey is not over. It's just beginning. So I always say look for lessons learned, not answers.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that's a mistake that we make, right? We look for the answers and we forget about the challenges that are teaching us those lessons where the answers exist, right? Where those opportunities to learn and evolve come from. Um, so I love the way you frame that. Let's talk a little bit about the Peruvian rug. This chapter jumped out at me. I like the title of the chapter. Please talk a little bit about it.
So I come from a family of 7 siblings. I mean 6 siblings, including myself, and my wife comes from a family of 6. So we wanted a family of 4 or 5. We wanted a big family, but we just had infertility problems. We got checked, she got checked, I got checked. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with us, and we felt like there was something wrong with us. So the Peruvian rug symbolizes what we were doing to mask the pain that we were feeling inside. We were on weekends, we would go to the swap meet and look at Peruvian rugs because it was so beautiful. But really, it was just to mask the pain of trying to live a normal life without kids, and we both wanted kids so bad. And so I titled the chapter "Peruvian Rug." It's really about masking pain in life, that we want something so bad but we couldn't have it. So we fill that void with something we admire, but yet it doesn't really fill that gap, the pain that's inside of us. So that chapter is about Peruvian rug. I mean, it's titled Peruvian rug, but the lesson is whatever pain you feel is never wasted. The hurt, the pain is never wasted, because you can always help someone else with it. Ultimately, we were able to conceive with science, so we have 1 kid. And ultimately, I talk about our infertility problems, pretty honestly with everyone that will listen. And ultimately, those stories actually help a lot of people. And I can tell you that people have given up after I talked to them. They gave it one more try, and now they have big families. So no hurt or pain is ever wasted.
Absolutely. So, and I love how you're able to take your hurt and your pain and frame it in a way that can help others learn and grow from it as well. And also, hopefully, accept their own hurt and their own pain and view those instances from a lens of growth and opportunity and curiosity and even forgiveness for themselves and others, and move on and grow fully. I love it. And the next chapter that I'm looking at here is the unbreakable bond. Please talk a little bit about that one.
Yeah, the unbreakable bond is about my son and I, our relationship. And people always ask, this might be extreme, but I always say, what are you willing to die for? Who are you willing to die for? And that I started with that premise. I started with that thesis. Who am I willing to die for? And my son came to my mind right away. So unfortunately, he grew up sickly and weak like me. Very always gotten sick every week. I remember there were times in my when I was going through my getting my MBA, my wife would call me and say I have to check him into the hospital. He had a high fever.
Mm.
So he was just always sick. But I did promise him that made a promise to him that I would never let him suffer the same fate that I went through. He would never get beaten up. He would never be bullied because I would be visible at school every day. And I actually tried to do that. I was just so involved with his life, every aspect of his life, from sports to classes to listening to him to hugging him when he has his first broken heart to athletics, disappointments, everything. And I believe that in the Chinese culture, it's very difficult to say I love you, but I can freely tell my son I love him any time of the day, and we have that kind of bond. So I don't think anything will break that bond. And it goes back to the thesis of the hypothesis: who are you willing to die for? And he's the first one that came to my mind. And I know that if he's trapped in a lion's cage, will I go in there? 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we do for our children, right? But that not only that you would do it, but that your son knows that you would do that and has had that experience and that truly unbreakable bond from, conception to today. You talked to me about your son and his professional achievements and the things that he's working on. And it's apparent that that bond is still there and the support that you have one another is always going to be there, which is just a beautiful part of what can be gathered as a result of all of those terrible experiences. Something good came from it, that appreciation for those relationships, that connection, that love, and to be able to freely say it and actually mean it is it's a real gift. It really is. Dr. Ang, if there is it just one thing that you would like people to take away from The Accidental Mayor, from your best-selling book, what would that be?
One takeaway I would say is really take that first step and take some risk in life. That's to me, that's one thing got out of it. If I look at my book, if you look at the defining moments, it's actually, you know, mountains and valleys at the highs and lows. When you're at the highest high, you know that you're going to come back down. When you're at the lowest low, you're going to come back up. That's how life works. But I think I look at my life, all the successes that I have, it's really about taking risks. It takes a lot of us a long time to take that first step. And because of human beings are naturally born we want to be comfortable. We want to, uh, we don't want to take uncalculated risk. We don't like loss, which is all part of human nature. But if there's one thing takeaway is take that first step, take some risk, because that first step will lead to so many more opportunities. Might not be able to see it now in the present, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you reflect back, or what I call in hindsight, you're gonna be thankful that you took that risk. So I always tell people, why haven't you done it? They always say, well, it's not the right time. There's never a right time. There's no such thing as perfect timing and perfect conditions. You have to take that first step. And once you take that first step, people are going to feel your passion. Once you take that first step, people are going to notice a change in you, your optimism. And though your passion and optimism is going to start attracting people, mentors who will help you get there. So I would say the biggest takeaway is really take risks. Take that first step. Don't be afraid.
Beautiful. So where can our audience go to get this book? Because we want to start our year in a positive direction, in a way that we're inspired. And I hope that everybody that reads your book becomes inspired and is able to take in all of those lessons that you've gone through, apply them to their life, and gain the confidence of becoming and taking that risk, that first step that you're talking about, Dr. Ang.
Yeah, thank you, Yvette. So my book is available on Amazon. That's the platform I use to publish my book. It's available in paperback as well as the e-book version, the Kindle version. And it's available. It was launched on November 18th. And give it a read. I know you won't be disappointed.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Ang. I love your story, and thank you for blessing us with it today.
Thank you again. It's so great to be back, and have a great new year, Yvette.
Beautiful. Same to you and everybody listening. All right, for everybody listening today, don't forget to look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on startups.Dr, and don't forget to download the free live streaming app on Google Play or the Apple App Store. Just a little update, everybody. We will be at the Rose Parade this coming January 2nd to cover live the Rose Parade from Pasadena, California, myself and my friend Jose Ulloa, the Latino cyber guy. So don't miss it. Look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram for that live feed. Don't miss my interview with Michael Gerber, who started his career in the arena and entertainment industry in 2001, back in his home state of Texas. Since then, he has worked in 7 different venues across the country, from Charlotte, North Carolina, all the way to the West Coast here in Los Angeles. During his career, Michael has had a major part in the hiring, training, development, and promotion of the many levels of event staff and managers that put on all the events that we love to experience at our favorite locations. Throughout his career, his customer service and safety training have played a key part in the development and safety of employees, guests, and the venues themselves. This has also led to consulting, training, and additional projects in both North and South America for venues and festivals. With ever-changing landscapes of challenges that venues and all walks of life encounter, Michael has focused his training and projects as it relates to pre- and post-pandemic related best practices, as well as the need to bring active shooter training and awareness to all types of businesses and gatherings. He is a certified AVERT instructor, and his training gives the tools to understand how to recognize warning signs, react quickly in an active shooter situation, and learn how to control bleeding in life-threatening situations. Next week, we will have Colin Sheehy, an explorer advisory for San Bernardino County Fire Department, who is currently assigned to downtown at Station 161 in Upland, California, the same city where he grew up and currently resides with his family. He is the youngest of 5 children, born to 2 hardworking public school educators who stress the immense value of tenacity and constant improvement. Colin has been a member of the San Bernardino County Fire Department since October 2003. During his career, he has functioned as a licensed paramedic, urban search and rescue specialist, aircraft rescue firefighting specialist, truck company specialist, and hold the rank of captain. Colin currently serves the Benevolent Foundation as an executive board member and as a member of our Workers' Compensation Committee. Colin has 2 associate degrees in fire science and pre-hospital emergency medicine from Victor Valley College, as well as a bachelor's degree in fire service management and leadership from Columbia Southern University, in conjunction with the National Fire Academy's Officer Development Program. Colin has faithfully served the citizens in San Bernardino County for the last 20 years, and we hope you do not miss it. We will see you next week, everyone.